Guys, now on to the next one. Have you had an experience of preferential or non-preferential treatment as a coach or a player?
Being son of an educator, son of a pastor, we've always had as children, you have to walk right, you have to look right, you have to set the example. That pressure's that's always been pressed upon me. So I've had the privilege of getting indoors because I'm articulate, because I'm educated, because I look the part or dress the part or whatever, and have been able to walk indoors that other black men couldn't, just because of maybe the way they look, the way they dress, the way they talk, or whatever. But I also have experienced being profiled for the simple fact I had friends that did certain things that I didn't do, but just because they were my friends, I was profiled with them. And so I had to make decisions on how and who I hung around. Because I understood just from my parents saying, son, because you're black and you're going to wake up every day black, these are issues you had to go through. My parents marched in the civil rights movement back in the 60s. And so I was always taught that I had to be a step ahead. I can remember one time when my mom, when I was probably second grade, I walked out the door, took a shower or bath or whatever. I ain't lotioned up, but I'm ashy. And she stops before I go out the door, and she grabs all this Vaseline and shines me up. And, she said, son, you can't go out the door looking like that. Right. Now, at that age, I didn't understand it. You're talking about in the early 80s. I didn't understand. I mean, why you got to put all this Vaseline on me, got me looking like a new penny. You know what I mean? So I'm like, man, this is ridiculous. But when I got older, I understood that perception is reality.
Yeah, man.
When my wife and when our children were younger, we would go out to eat, and I gave my kids the same speech my mom gave me. If you break it, I'm gonna break you. If you come in here and so we go to restaurants. My kids, they sat at the table, they ate. They didn't get up and run around. And I can remember my kids maybe early elementary, and an older white lady came up to me, and my wife, she's like, your kids are so well behaved. And me and my wife looked at each other like, our kids are supposed to be well behaved. So why are you saying that to us? You know what I mean? Now, she could have had no ill intent, but because I'm black, and sometimes we as black people, we take it immediately like you're being discriminatory to us because we're black. Or you're making those statements because I'm black. And so that's another part of the issue. Some actions are intent to hurt and harm. And so we have to, as people in general, have to be able to differentiate from those, what is ill intent and what is just a compliment or instruction or criticism. Sometimes we take it, as African Americans, we get fired from a job. They did it because I'm black. In some cases, that's true. In some cases, it's because you were late to work every day. Those are things that we have to be able to differentiate from. Now, when we start talking about like what we saw with George Floyd and Tamir Rice and some of the other incidences, we're able to see through technology blatant acts of racism and discrimination. And so those things that, we want to stop seeing. I think all of America, I think all of the world wants that to stop, not just black people. I think many of my white friends have called me and said, man, if I've ever done anything offensive or said anything or not been sensitive to your race, I'm sorry. I've had plenty of my friends that I grew up with, that we didn't see color as children, but then we become adults and, we start giving that preferential treatment to one side and discriminate against the other side.
I think this world teaches us evil because there's evil in the world, and that's the sad thing. The more you're of the world, the more you're going to be like this world, and this world has a lot of hatred in it. I've experienced it personally at different places that I've been. Being even a white man in a predominantly black high school, I've received information like, oh, I don't know if he'll be a good coach because he's a white coach. So it's very difficult because it's evil in the world, and how do we navigate past that? I wish everybody would see us just based on our heart and our character, but it doesn't happen like that in the world today. And I saw it on the other side of the coin. A lot of my friends, like Jupiter Wilson's my best friend, and I got some other friends that I coach with. I've seen it where they didn't get jobs because of the way that they looked. Maybe Jupiter might get a job, somewhere because he's a clean-cut guy, but God forbid you have dreads. Even though you're a great coach and a great man, it can affect you getting a job, and I think that's a sad thing. Like, why do we have that? But it's a reality that we have to get past. We have to break down those barriers for the future. Now, just to tell you a little bit of a story, I've talked about it before on social media platform, is the children. It's a beautiful thing. My children are multiracial. To the world, they would be, 35% Korean, 25% German, and all these other things mixed in with it, right? Well, to the world, that's what they would be. You ask them, if I said, hey, what's your ethnicity or what's your race, they would look at me like, what are you talking about? Because the world hasn't taught them that. Mm-hmm. I think that if we ever could get to the world, and this is just my soapbox that I wish that we could do, when we take tests every day, like going up through school or on your driver's license, what does it say? It identifies you with your race. Well, that's a worldly thing. I think we've given that stuff too much credit. You see what I'm saying? So I wish that we could, now this is just my opinion, I wish that we could always just check the other box. I wish that, someone asked me, what color am I? I'm not going to say I'm white, I'm other, because what you have on this form is not what I am. It's not who I am. And I hate being labeled that way. And wouldn't it be amazing if this whole world could look at each other as just the other box, that we're all together in the same boat, That would be pretty awesome, but we're far from that,
I've had conversations with my mother and father before affirmative action came into play. Those things, those labels were not on like job applications. Black, white, male, female, blah, blah, blah. And so because of that, because of certain people in power wanting to eliminate or to minimize the ability for other people that were different from them to gain access or to gain power to certain things, you start getting these labels. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And like you said, the kids, they come up in the world, in the elementary, if you go to a daycare right now, the kids don't know that they're different colors. They don't know that they, other than one may be lighter or darker, but they don't know that is a major difference, in this world. But then it's not until they become 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and, the world starts telling them to take a side, to identify with this, until you start seeing those things being taught now to our young folks to start discriminating or to have racial beliefs or have ill intent towards another race. And it's sad because for me, I judge every man by my experience with that man. If I were to judge every white man based on what the officer that was on George Floyd's neck, if I was to judge every white man by that, then I would lose out on having a good experience with Coach Griner, because I'm saying he's just like that police officer. If I was to judge every white man by George, what's his name, that shot Trayvon Martin?
George Zimmerman.
George, if I was to judge every white man by his actions, then I would lose out on a great experience with another man. But unfortunately, and it's unfortunate that you have people in this world that will judge every single person that looks like someone they had a bad experience with or someone that they, in their minds and their heart, they hate. Mm-hmm. Those are the sad things that's why I said what I said earlier about I don't know that you can ever get rid of it, because I think people won't single out or judge people based on the content of their character, not the cover of the book.
Having some advantages and disadvantages. For the most part, this is being very transparent. I probably had a lot of advantages growing up. kind of like Coach Gray said, dad's an elder, had me in church every day, you know, all those type of things. I went to a predominantly white high school, so most people would say that I'm clean cut, or the term would be being realistic is not being black enough, because I went to a predominantly white high school.
We gotta get rid of that too.
So for me personally, that was always a bit of a struggle. So when you went to the school and it was all you know, rich kids and all that type of stuff, not that I felt like I had to prove to them I wasn't rich, but it was like, you know, well, if you this color and you black, you got to show that you this. And so I remember actually it was a couple weeks ago, there was a Facebook group of Carolina Tar Heels, and one of the guys was upset about how he felt like some things happened amongst the team, and you know, one of the guys felt the need to call me out about it and say, hey, you were friends or you were cool with the head coach, and you know, why don't you say something? And I knew, and I ended up talking to a couple of my guys, and I knew what that image was probably portrayed. Hey, he was the guy, he did everything right, he ain't black enough. And so sometimes, you know, you look in your mirror about yourself and you say, all right, what do I have to do to, not even say to show you're black, I mean, I'm a black guy, but in the same regard, it's like, man, I want to fit in with this crew because I wanted to understand. That was, you know, kind of an identity crisis as, you know, 16, 17-year-old kid. Like, I want to prove that I'm good with them, and I got to prove that, you know, you can do that, and you never really find it. And I just had to come to a realization is God made you exactly who you are. My dad raised me a certain way to be, and there's nothing wrong with being who God made you to be. If that means that you're going to have some, you know, people give you preferential treatment, and I don't really call it preferential treatment, is I took it as, hey, here's a young man that's trying to do the right things in school, in the classroom, in, you know, in society. And I look at myself and I pinch myself and I'm saying, all right, now you're at Hickory Ridge High School, and not only are you the head football coach, you're the head girls basketball coach, you're the head, like you put yourself in positions because you felt like God had his hand on you, right. Your parents did right by you, and you put yourself in a position to allow other people to see what's going on in your life and say, hey man, here's the keys to this. Oh man, you can handle that. Hey, here's the keys to this. So, you know, I don't want people and the young man that I coach and teach to feel like they can't do the right things and feel like society's going to judge them either way.
Blessed to play college football. Had one situation at one particular school. I was the only African-American male in the English department. And one of the professors is just that person couldn't get over that I was an African-American male. I was pursuing an English degree. And at the time, that's when cornrows were in. I had cornrows, you know, I had hair. He jokes with me all the time. I pretty much was told I didn't belong in that department because I was a black male. And as an 18-year-old, that really struck. You know, I didn't tell my mom until I was an adult. I just tried to figure it out on my own. But that really struck. I always kept that in the back of my mind. You know, went on, you know, transferred to another school, went to play. But this particular incident, we were at an airport. We had a game. We were on our way back to North Carolina, and at the airport, meeting some of the airport workers in this particular city, struck up a great conversation. And, you know, the person just said, but you look like you was trouble. And that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, kind of like when the lady, you know, looked at Coach Gray and his wife and said, your kids are good. And I was looking like, and I asked her, I said, you know, what is that supposed to mean? Well, you just look like, you know, you be getting in trouble. Is it because I have dreads? Because I had dreads at this time. Yeah. I said, it's because I have dreads. Then that person got quiet, and I was just like, you know, I was like, I'm just going to educate you on something. I was like, I'm an English major. I said, I have a 3.7 GPA. Do you need to know anything else? Person got quiet. Mm-hmm. So had those experiences, but just as a man in general, I tell this story all the time when I talk to people. I just bought a vehicle. I like vehicles. I just bought a hot vehicle. Mm-hmm. It was a popular car. I got pulled over twice in the same day, 12 hours apart. So I was on my way to work, got pulled over at 8 a.m. Cool, not tripping. Rolled the window down. Oh, we just wanted to make sure the tags matched the car. Okay, whatever. 12 hours later, on the way to a little pickup basketball game, got pulled over again. And it was the same statement, or we just wanted to make sure your tags matched your car. And I'm just like, yo, like, in my mind, I'm just like, yo, I'm an educator. I don't bother nobody. And, you know, it's kind of crazy. My mom was a police officer. And I remember calling her that night. I was like, Mom, I see why people, you know, feel this type of way. You know, you can't label everybody, but, like, you know, no one is exempt. Like, my family of pastors, I come from a line of pastors. Nobody is exempt from pretty much what, you know, we have going on. So I've definitely had my share, you know, racism, being on that other end of it, you know, trying to correct people like, man, just because you can't label, you know, one person off of what you think, you know, especially with the intelligence part. Like, that really irks me.